Yo, 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 yo.
Oh, hey, look who's back from their vacation to Scotland. Hey, Mothman.
Hey, Chupacabra. Hey, Fresno Nightcrawler.
My greetings, young lad. What a beautiful Polaroid camera you've got there. Such beautiful leather straps and so well weathered.
So, don't keep us waiting. How was Edinburgh?
Actually, this is so crazy to say, but I might have met someone. It was nice, like the opposite of a notorious national scale bridge disaster.
Wow, that's so sweet. Yeah, it's a shame they're all the way in Scotland, though.
Yes, there is no better feeling than weird, beautiful love between two dark entities of fate. For your friend to make their way to us, it would be glorious.
Yeah, I hope they write me back.
Mothman 2, now with green eyes. Get your clone today at theyeti.com/Chilluminati.
Yo, 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 yo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 288. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined today by the Stephen Hawking and Leonard Susskind of LA, Jesse and Alex.
Okay, so
What?
Two very, very, very smart men.
that's true. That's true. And one of them is really good at poker, or at least the hologram version of him
The
is
hologram one is
on the Enterprise,
Yeah.
because he had 4 7s.
Yep,
Remember that?
I do.
47.
I got you, Picard.
So who's who?
I'll be Susskind because I feel like I'm like more of a Susskind like dresser. Like he's like Jesse like looks together more than I do. I feel like I'm more of a goofy dresser, and I feel like Susskind has more of a like deranged wizard vibe. I'll take that.
Sure, you know, I'll
take it.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever
that works
you
for me.
say, that works. All right. I know that's the weirdest beginning to any start.
You were
an
like
episode.
which theoretical physicist are you? And I was like, I think I'm
I
Susskind.
know.
And he's
I don't know what I expected, honestly, out of that. Like,
I mean,
don't really know.
He's Stephen Hawking.
Thank you, but I
I'll
don't
be
know that I
Susskind.
want to be Stephen Hawking, but like, okay. I don't know this other guy.
I'm trying to distance myself from Stephen Hawking after things I learned about him from that documentary or whatever it was.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that I want to be, but like, all right.
Well, he's going to be a brief moment in this episode, so that's a reason.
Stephen Hawking?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is this? All right.
I want to
Sure.
be Carl Sagan is really who I want to be. Like the Mr. Rogers of science. You know,
I just want to be Mr. Rogers. Oh, you could be Carl Sagan and I'll be Mr. Rogers. Done.
we would
There
have
we go. Okay, yeah, all right.
we would be like, whose sweater is more comfortable?
Both our sweaters are pretty comfortable. Do you want to wear my sweater? Let's switch sweaters.
Yes, let's talk about things that are true. Let's teach the children and take care of people that need it.
Let me put my shoes on first.
What if our entire physical reality isn't true, Alex?
Dude, I've been thinking that ever since Agent Smith came out of the Matrix, bro.
Dude, like how? How to get out of that matrix? That shouldn't
Dude.
happen.
What if Cyberpunk 2077, the game, is actually a game? Did you ever think about that?
Or walk. What? Wait, what?
Like, obviously it's a game, like for me to play in the game, but like V, what if V is in a game? You get it?
So it's like a cyberpunk twist of like, it was all a dream?
Simulation.
I must stress, Alex, you're on the same wavelength as a dude who's like, do you ever think that like lamps in video games use electricity, dude?
They do, bro. They fucking do, bro. They just don't light up tungsten. The tungsten's just a graphic, bro. Listen, dude, I got this laser leveler. Hang on. Take some PCP real quick. Hold on.
Huh?
Is PCP, isn't that just like make you really angry?
That's just not what you should do before you try to explore the universe. Trust me. Do not take PCP. Actually, you know what? Blanket statement. Don't take PCP at all. We good with that?
I can't wait for the Reddit post that's like, actually,
I
Alex
have
is
been
wrong.
taking PCP for
is
10
great.
years.
I take it all the time.
Yeah,
Speaking
this
of.
guy, I am the proof. If my personal experience is different than what those 3 other individuals say, they are charlatans.
I can't wait for the username is gonna be like PCP bro.
PCP Warrior 69. PC Peases?
Yeah.
Dude, that guy punches his way off the cross. He rips the cross down with his arms. Rips his hands off, stigmata style, like fucking a Saw challenge.
Oh my God, brother. I don't know what's happening anymore. We're like off the rails and we haven't even gotten on the rails to begin with yet.
Dude, that's the perfect place to start with the Monroe Institute.
Yeah. I guess that's correct. Also, a great place to start at patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where you give us, that's where the rails are made.
The rails, if you want to connect the East Coast and the West Coast with the rails, finally, after all this time, head to patreon.com.
If you have a bunch of foreign workers you don't care about, you want to throw them at railroad tracks.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds like something a lot of Americans will be interested in doing right now.
I think all three of us are very tired for different reasons today. It's going to make for a really, really interesting episode.
I'm ready to surf into Zone 10, bro. That's where I'm ready to go. Yeah.
No,
okay.
No.
Zone 10 from Wipeout HD.
I'm not doing this.
The
I don't
end
want
of
to. No.
Today's episode, while we will talk about our own individual experiences with meditation, for those of us who gave it a shot, I don't know if you did or not, Jesse. I'm very curious.
I did.
I'm very curious.
You did the first one?
No, I tried meditation like meditation.
You weren't
with their like the original like the videos. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't go to any websites or do anything. I just went to the video link that was sent to me.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Well, you gave it. That's all that matters. And maybe we'll get to some of our listener stories. Oh, there's been a ton of great ones on the subreddit.
Oh my God! Like
we'll talk about some of them on the mini-sode for
so many
sure.
wild things. Yeah,
it's some cool stuff. There's a bit last episode that I had to cut because we were running up to 2 hours that we're gonna cover, and it won't be another 2 hours just to cover it. But it's kind of one of the crux of the Monroe Institute's what I would consider the legitimacy, the CIA paper. And very particularly, as you brought up in episode 1, Alex, for a very long time, the CIA paper on the Monroe Institute was missing a single page in its entire release, page 25. So we're going to talk about that CIA paper, the missing page, which will, I promise you, lead into logically that we might live in a holographic universe. Okay? I'm just saying, take it, sit on it.
The allegory of the cave, baby. We've always been living in a hologram, my man. You know what I'm saying?
I do want to talk about the CIA paper in particular for a little bit and whether or not it actually gives any legitimacy to the Monroe Institute in the way that many people tend to use as like, what is it? The pointing to when you point to authority as like reason for something being legitimate.
Oh, but just being like, see, the CIA.
Appeal to authority. Yeah. Like, yeah, appeal
they wrote
to
a
authority.
thing. That means it's real. New York Times covered it. It's real.
And I think at the center of the Monroe Institute, this is what lies at their narrative. The CIA release document is what so many people on the online world point to as the reason this is all, real. It was penned in the early 1980s by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell. And the paper was an academic, kind of like not just an academic exercise, but it was an earnest attempt by the government to understand whether the techniques pioneered at the Monroe Institute could unlock untapped human potential in the world of consciousness. McDonnell's report was super meticulous. You can read it in its full now. I linked it in last episode in the sources, so feel free to go back.
This is the 30-page report?
Yeah, the 30-page report. It dissects the methods developed by Robert Monroe with precision that is kind of like, it's almost very analytical for something that is so...
It really demystifies and lames it up a lot if you read it. Like, if you read it, it kind of it does not do any favors to it in terms of, like, the way that, for lack of a better term, like, culty literature kind of, like, mystifies shit a bit to make it seem cool. Yeah, I think this is very, like, a clinical... He's just like, he says there are different focuses. The focuses are this. It's like this type of thing. It's like this and this. Bing,
and
bang.
As we talked about last week,
really
too, like,
weigh in.
Then it breaks down to how can we use this in warfare? And that's kind of where it goes down to for a while.
I will say it does kind of vibe him out though by the end. I feel like
his conclusion, which I would recommend reading if you're not going to read anything, read his conclusion. He does have this. He walks away going like, like almost like that's kind of like that's the vibe of like this shit makes sense in a way that it shouldn't.
Yeah,
but it is it isn't. this is a guy who is vouching for this. I think that's the mistake here, is that this is a dude who most of the paper is him just re-explaining the stuff that he is being told.
Yes.
And so it isn't like he's not making judgment calls on any of this. He's straight up being like, I mean, we could use it in war.
He's trying it, but he's not really like being like,
the paper
yes
was
no.
enough. The paper was enough for the military to then send people to attend the Monroe Institute, which they then took those lessons and used in the Stargate program, basically. That's it. That's all there is to it. The thing is, there's no more than that.
Just in general,
yeah,
most government or military, organizations will do stuff like this. Like if they can get an edge, they'll do it.
Yeah.
And so this is just another example of that. I feel like the idea of the Monroe Institute saying like the CIA, see, they like all this is doing is they studied them and reported out the information. It isn't like he studied them and then said they're great.
Even that is generous, should I say. I would say the Monroe Institute doesn't say, look, the CIA does it. They don't really say much, but the people online that are all about the Monroe Institute or whatever always point to the paper and the CIA.
It's the same vibe as like UFO, like pointing to like memos and shit. It's like the same vibe. Yeah. And
even like, and it's a very popular YouTube channel out there and his videos are very entertaining, but Y-Files is another one that did kind of a whole breakdown of this thing. And he even has some information. I don't want to hesitate to say wrong, but incorrect.
Hey, by the way, sidebar, Y-Files, get that AI slop off your fucking channel now.
Oh yeah. With the
and I'll watch you again. You are great content. Get that slop off of there.
Yeah, agreed. His content is good, and the AI thumbnails are crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna address that whole thing, Jesse, because I agree with you, and I want to give the dude that I wanted to give it last episode, but didn't want to run 3 hours doing this. The paper itself delved into the mechanics of brainwave synchronization. And noting when the two hemispheres of the brain are supposed to operate in unison, individuals might be able to access deeper states of awareness that bordered on what I think a lot of people would consider metaphysical.
Again, though, this isn't, I must stress, this isn't tests he's run.
Right.
This is things that he's read or been told. This is how it works.
And he did it himself.
Sure. Oh, he did it, but he was like, I don't know if that even worked, but like, it's interesting.
Right.
That's
absolutely the point of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
if you read it, and that's the next sentence I have in my script here, is his analysis is both very skeptical, but there's a curiosity tangent to it. But that's
me on
exactly
the show. That's basically the vibe.
It's probably
I'm like, I don't believe it, but like, it's cool.
It's probably the weirdest thing he's ever been asked to do like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he's
but all the information, all the cool like designs and the cool graphs and stuff, that's just information he has been presented that he's reporting out on. It doesn't, I think the fallacy here that a lot of people online are using when they talk about this is this guy is presenting this as truth. Yeah, no, he's presenting what he's been told to the government so the government can make the determination.
Yeah, I can explain Terrence Howard's math to you. I can. But it's not going to make it real, no matter what.
Yes. And right here, I think this is a good quote from the paper that shows his more, like I said, kind of analytical approach to this, where he says, quote, "The process described herein appears to facilitate a controlled alteration of consciousness, one that might, with further study, yield practical applications for intelligence and strategic operations." It's exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what he says in the paper. And like I said before, people who are interested, read it. It's worth reading. Obviously, beyond the scientific inquiry, the report also talked about a little bit of like an undercurrent of potential militarization of these techniques designed to liberate our spies' minds to maybe be able to spy. Again, this was also during the Cold War. This was something the U.S. government believed Russia was doing. So therefore, they started doing it in reaction to the rumors of Russia doing it. And I think the evidence of Russia starting it is like wishy-washy at best. I'm not entirely sure on that. But the very tools that the Monroe had created for like what he considered personal growth and exploration were being examined for their ability to enhance performance in high-stakes environments, espionage, battlefield decision-making. Which reminds me of Bastila with battle meditation. And she's just like on this, and we're on a ship. We got a general in their tent, battle meditating for his forces on the field. But despite the rigorous analysis, the report stopped quite short of recommending a full-scale program. Instead, it laid the groundwork for what would later evolve into more expansive projects like the U.S. Army's remote viewing studies that I talked about, Stargate, which would be a domain that once the public learned about would capture their attention up until present day. Stargate is something they point to all the time. And people like Lou Elizondo further that as well, in a way that feeds the red meat almost to the base of people who refuse to like be suspect of any of these programs actually having worked. And for many who followed Monroe's work, the existence of CIA papers, this offers, like you were saying, a potent blend of validation, but enough enigma that you can kind of play around with it for a while. They reveal that what was once dismissed as fringe science had indeed finally captured the attention of some of the most formidable minds in the government. However, while the papers do demonstrate that the boundaries of human consciousness might, and there's a big heavy might, be far more permeable than conventional wisdom would suggest, they do so as much by reflecting an era eager to probe unconventional ideas due to the Cold War with a foreign enemy. There is a reason that is beyond just conventional curiosity for this. They're doing, like you said earlier, everything. They're grabbing onto any string, anything from paranormal to science-based, and seeing if there's even a hint of something there that they can use.
I mean, that's one of the big, like, occult things from World War II that people to this day still think about is, like, Hitler obsessed with the occult, so he got his SS to go, like, look for occult artifacts.
Thank God
in America, because we were like...
Yeah, thank God for Hellboy, right?
Yeah, we were like, we gotta do that too. And so American people went out to go, like, look... It didn't mean anything was real. It just meant that if they were going to do it, we got to do it too, because who knows? Yeah. And I feel like that's the case here, where you can have people be like, there's something going on with the mind, and then all these other programs spark from it, because they're like, well, we have to check. Yeah. Like, we'd be a fool to let the Russians have that. So they just did it, and who knows?
And like, if this was about that the mind is fascinating, but not in the useful way that they wish it was,
Sure.
Yeah, it's like if this was about Scientology, for example, right? This report would be like a cold reading of like the lore of Scientology, basically, right?
Yeah.
Which is what this is just the lore. And like from that perspective, right? Like at least for me reading this, though, I understand the appeal to authority fallacy, and I understand like what this does mean and what this doesn't mean with regard to legitimizing it in any real way. I do think that the fact that in investigating it, he found the teachings to be consistent with itself and earnest, is, at least in the most vague sense, quite, a vote of confidence towards this thing being like predatory, let's say.
What year was this?
The 80s, like 82 or 83?
Like this guy, I believe, is alive or was recently died.
I have the paper here. Hang on, let me look at the year. 1983, June 9th, 1983. It's an exciting time for me right now in the tabletop RPG world. On the one hand, I have a brand new tabletop RPG show coming out not too long from now. And on the other hand, I've just brought on 2 brand new players who've never played D&D before into my home campaign. All that to say is, I'm in need of minis badly. Luckily, that's where our good friends and partners and sponsors, Hero Forge, come in. If you're a tabletop RPG sicko like I am, just head over to Hero Forge. You're just going to need to do it because it's where you can make your own custom minis, hundreds of different parts, thousands upon thousands of different combinations to make your own horde of enemies that you want to use against your player, or if you're a player, make the next victim for your DM. Not only can you go over to the website and just make your mini and model it for free before you even decide if you're going to buy it or not, you have a plethora of different choices of material you want, from simple gray plastics to a higher grade resin to color to even brass figures. There's a lot to choose from, and your minis can vary widely in size, from tiny little minis to all the way up to statuettes and bigger. There's just so much to check out over at Hero Forge. And I'm thrilled that we just get to keep working with them, because I literally used Hero Forge for years before we ever got to work with them. So this comes with the highest personal, go check them out that you could possibly get. And if you decide to get something, use code CHILL for all physical purchases and, get a little bit of a discount for yourself there. And if you're like me and have a 3D printer and you need to get a horde of minis now, you can even buy the digital files for a nice cheap price too. So just head over to heroforge.com, use code CHILL on checkout if you decide to get anything, and just check it out, because that place is awesome. Thank you, Here For It, for sponsoring this episode, by the way. Again, even though I said it before.
So my big, like, the line that I am stuck at is I firmly, to my core, believe this dude, like, Monroe himself, and this whole thing, and this guy coming out, Monroe died in the 90s, I think?
Yeah, 90s.
So, like, he was alive during this time. I firmly believe there is a pre and post Monroe. Like, I think at the time, I bet this dude was like, let me tell you some really cool stuff, and here's how the mind works, and it was very interesting. And I would make the assumption, and again, this is just an assumption, that the modern day version of that's like, look what the CIA said this, like, that seems like a different vibe than what that would have been in 83, where this guy got to experience it. It probably was a lot more real then as a concept, because there was actually someone who cared about the idea of it. That meditation that you guys were talking about last week, the idea of like what they can do for you versus what I think it is now, which is like just a business.
Sure. And I mean, that's the other, and to make clear, like, the part with meditation too is like, remember, meditation isn't like a cure all for anything. It's just a tool.
Like a massage is not like gonna cure your illness, but it's still something
Feels
that they
nice.
charge. Yeah. They still charge you to do it, and it's not a scam, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but
the massage you can get, like, you can see the process. Does that make any sense? You can, like,
sometimes, but it's also steeped in like Eastern medicine and things that are like totally folk based, like
I would say that there's a lot of that extra step in massage. Like, there's a lot of extra things they do that I think is total bullshit.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that's exactly this. That's exactly what I'm saying with this too, is it's like, even if what you believe is happening is simply that you're breathing more calmly and like thinking in a present way, and that's all that is helping you, right? Like, the reason that they're buying into this for whatever reason is that, like, and true to the tenets of the program, is it's like reality itself is what you make it. And so it's not so much that you need to buy into it or not. It's that you get the effect either way. It's just whether or not you think what's happening is really happening or not. And I don't think that it's invalid. I don't think the effect is invalidated by either one, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure. No, but I feel like it has that same, like, again, going back to that, it just has like a feeling that is uncomfortable to me, because the same way I get around, a lot of the times when you think about like real, like organized religions,
like, bro, that's what I was going to say. I feel that way at church, but it's like, I'm not going to be like, church is fucked.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
But it's like, there's something about it where meditation as a whole seems like a personal thing you could do yourself. But the idea that you're going to these people and they're going to tell you how to do it right. But like, again, if it's all in your head and they're promising more than just like, as far as I'm aware, they're promising more than just getting right with yourself.
They're promising
and that feeling, I think is the problem.
I don't think they're but I don't think they're promising it. I think
that's what they're selling, though. They're selling that you could get there to something better than just like, I meditate and I feel good afterwards. There's like telling you, if you pay for packages, we can help you unlock shit. That doesn't seem legit.
If that's really how it is, I think that's wild. But I think, like, for example, homeopathic medicine or crystals or whatever, you know, when I go to the shop and I buy the crystal for hope, or I buy the crystal for prosperity, or I buy the crystal for tolerance or whatever that I'm going to buy, like, am I buying it because I'm going to come back and be mad if it is, I don't literally get richer? Or is it more like tarot, where part of it is like just getting your brain to do it? You know what I mean? Like, if it's a framework that is it, like, and you are thinking it, and it's saying you're creating it in your own brain by vibrating to these frequencies, which you are in fact doing, like, you are using binaural beats, using binaural beats to like actually vibrate your brain matter. Like, I don't know, like, it's like everything about it is true except whether or not you believe magic is real, right? Like, well, like basically that.
I think that the thing I would say, in, you know, it's kind
like
of
Jesus,
reductive, but
pretty
at
good
least,
guy, right?
But at least, like, if you buy a crystal or you get tarot or whatever, at least you get like a fun little thing to keep afterwards. This is like
you get lore. You get
it
lore.
is only inside of you.
No.
You know, you're getting only what you give, and it just seems like one of those, like, it's the perfect. They don't have to deliver anything.
Like if I don't, like let's say I take out the Eastern mysticism or whatever is in there, right? And I'm just Tony Robbins, right? Isn't that just the same thing?
100%. I mean, but the thing is that is reaffirming self-help. And it doesn't mean that it's good or bad. I would say that I definitely think Tony Robbins and I would 100% say, and this is just me, not the podcast, that is also kind of a scam. Self-help books are kind of scammy.
It's definitely like not objective. It's not definitely not objective.
I don't want to interrupt much.
Yeah.
Because this is a good conversation, but it's something we're going to get to, is that these other things that they offer that Jesse is talking about, which is wholly worth bringing up. A vast majority of them, with the exception of a sleep study, binaural beats study, meditation guide, were introduced after Robert Monroe's death.
And that's what I was getting to in the beginning. It feels like there's a line where it was like,
that's a problem.
Wholesome and good,
and
he was a dude trying to do a thing, and then it became scammy. Yeah.
Going back to Jesus really quick.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of with you on this. Yeah.
We're literally gonna talk about like that, not only where that came from, but some of the other shady shit they did with missing page 25. These new owners for more modern day shit. But that's important. There's basically 4 programs during Robert Monroe. He dies. New leadership takes over, and in 2003 is when they began introducing new audio programs that are weird energy healing bullshit that like is the problem. But during the Monroe era, when this was more about him exploring and studying, was when, you know, they still work with government stuff now, I guess, but like back then it was more about the binaural beats, which is like the stuff that I care about in terms of just like what they produced. Sure. But then, yes, absolutely. Once he passed, different people took over. And it's like what happened to Blizzard after they got bought by Activision, or, you know, over time, like, you know, new CEOs.
That's, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like out of my hands at that. That's kind of out of my hands at that point, though. You know what I mean? Like
100%. But we're going to get there because these CIA papers kind of lead to that direction. Because the CIA papers, no matter what, like however you look at them, they do not offer definitive empirical confirmation that the techniques worked. Instead, they present a detailed theoretical analysis of the process, exploring how Monroe's methods might be able to induce altered states of consciousness through mechanisms like binaural beats and hemispheric synchronization. That also doesn't mean it doesn't work either. There is just a question mark that there's a possibility.
And essentially, I don't think the man was being disingenuous.
No, I do not believe Robert Monroe was being disingenuous.
That's something that I want to really make clear about this is like, I'm defending it only to the degree that like I can't speak for like what business interests came into this organization after it was founded and the research was done by Monroe. But I genuinely do believe that Monroe was not trying to fleece you. I think he was genuinely trying to write something that he believed was true. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think because as we talked about too, when we were talking about Monroe, some of his experiences truly just felt like, again, early in episode 1, it felt like he was neurodivergent in a world where that wasn't something that was known in the way he described himself. Because he was like, I felt different.
Had a different,
or talking about some of the weird
things differently. Yeah,
feelings he had that he has ascribed maybe to like these metaphysical things, when a lot of people who meditate feel the same exact things that he was feeling, and they might just be his interpretation of certain things. But yeah, getting back to the script, in doing so, like while they acknowledge the boundaries of human consciousness might be permeable, the document stops super short of doing anything conclusive. And so when these CIA papers were declassified in 2003, the big thing that got everybody's attention, while it was an interesting paper, was that one page was conspicuously absent, page 25. Officially, the CIA has never provided a detailed public explanation for why this page has been or was removed. In fact, CIA responses to Freedom of Information Act requests consistently claimed that the agency did not have page 25 at all. In other words, like, it's just like, so they just fucking
It was never.
denied it.
They said it was never given to them, right?
Right.
Like
And
they never
here's-
had it in the first place. Yeah,
which is weird. I don't want to say
that
it
doesn't make
makes no
sense
It is
because
weird.
isn't it him? Isn't he CIA?
Who?
The guy writing the paper?
No. So we're going to get to that. People call this the CIA paper. It is not written by the CIA. It's a wrong title. Okay, listen, this is why I want to talk about this today.
They didn't pay for the paper.
We're getting there. We are literally going to get there.
What
This is
kind
why
of plot twist is this?
This is why we couldn't go. We had 2-hour episode last week. We have to talk about this. So years later, a man by the name of John Greenwald, you know, the Black Vault I talk about all the time. He's the FOIA request guy all the times. He specifically started requesting page 25, and the CIA informed him that they couldn't locate the page, and even quote unquote lost his initial request, eventually suggesting that he asked the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command for it instead. That was what they told him.
U.S. Army
and Security Command, INSCOM, INSCOM.
INSCOM. Okay,
That's where they were like that's just basically completely like ignored for some weird reason. And of course, this fuels people's conspiracies about it. Because it implied that the document in the CIA's archives was incomplete, that it was being left out on purpose, likely because the report originated not from the CIA, but Army intelligence. And the CIA's copy that they got from Army intelligence may not have included the page. The CIA didn't do this study. It was the Army intelligence that did this study, and the CIA was then interested in the Army intelligence's study and requested it from them, which is where the write-up comes from.
so
That
it is
makes
an internal.
so much more
So
sense,
it is
though.
an internal CIA document that
right,
they
but
received.
it's not done by
which is
no
a-
CIA
wh-
agent
yeah,
went there.
The CIA document is a scan of an Army document missing one page.
And Army intelligence, straight up, their whole point is to do stuff like this. Like, if something can be used or we can do something, that's our job. So
Yeah.
this checks out completely that, oh, okay, this guy did a write-up on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and on the paper itself, there was no classification mark or redaction code
Right.
that was given on the released file. The page 25 was literally just missing. It went from 24 to 26. And the CIA's official position had been that the agency just could not provide page 25 because it didn't have it. They just kept saying, we don't fucking have this piece of paper. I don't know what you want us to say. Obviously, it varies on whether people believe that's true or not. I mean, we've seen how FOIA works many times, and John Greenwald has waited 15 years just to get denied for something that he then later learned they did have. But it doesn't mean that this is not just a clerical mistake as well. And in the absence of any official explanation, researchers, journalists, and just curious people started proposing theories as to why page 25 was missing. And over 2 decades, this missing page essentially just became a holy grail artifact that was either going to fully prove or fully disprove that this shit works one way or the other. Some people believed it was being intentionally withheld by the CIA, assuming that the CIA must have deliberately kept page 25 because it contained super sensitive and profound information.
To be fair, in reading the document, it literally is like, the vibe is like, and there is one more big secret. And the big secret is, anyway, as I was saying, it's literally like that kind of vibe in the document. Like,
Yeah,
page
we're going to
missing.
get there is page 24 ends off on a literal cliffhanger.
It's like the big secret is
And
not
then
in this
bam,
document.
gone.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird. Because it ends on such a weird cliffhanger too, people just start fucking thinking and maybe the very nature of reality is hidden in that page, or encounters with these other alien-like creatures the CIA must have done. They must have made contact in some way. Maybe even just it's just because page 25 has the instructions on how to become an astral projection master in these 5 simple steps. People truly started thinking the crazy shit about page 25. Others believed it was like an author omission test theory, which is a tongue-in-cheek kind of theory that suggests that LTC Wayne McDonald, the guy that wrote it, left page 25 out on purpose as a kind of like test or joke. It depends on who's making a post about it. The idea was that if someone truly mastered the out-of-body gateway technique, they could astrally retrieve the missing information and then report back to what it was said. So this is almost like a fancy test for him to
That's some internet bullshit. No way.
Yeah, no shit, it's the internet bullshit, but it's how quickly that shit catches on and then propagates and becomes its own like theory.
That is so frustrating.
Yeah.
It is so frustrating, like in a way where it's literally like that thing where you were talking about Jesse one time. I don't remember exactly what it was, the context, but it was like some game developers were like, in the cutscene, this like guy just like walks off in the middle of the cutscene.
Dead Space. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, we don't know what happens to that guy. They don't explain what happens, but the fans are going to talk about it, and that keeps people interested. And it's like,
yeah,
you know, that type of shit.
You could, I was able to like track down one of the original posts about it, and it's so clearly meant to be a joke. But then it just gained traction in other forums over time.
Literally the QAnon phenomenon.
Yes. And so then there's a more realistic explanation. It's probably a clerical error. It might have been just like FOIA requesters, was that page 25's absence was just due to bureaucratic mistake or copying error, and rather than any deliberate secrecy. And given that the Gateway report was part of the CIA's Project Stargate later in the future, which was made public as well, it's possible the CIA's archive copy simply just never included the page when or is misfiled or something. Like, it literally just could have been an oops mistake that page 25 is missing, because again, there's no there's no like code number or like top secret thing, any marker that this is like super classified or anything. It's just missing, which is like very weird. Yeah. And a lot of transparency activists suspected that that's the case as well. Like, clerical mix-ups happen, and this is just one of those.
It's just so conspicuous is the one thing about it. It's so cinematically conspicuous that it almost feels like it was made to like draw attention a little bit, just because of how it, like, what is the literal cut? What's the literal quote?
I wanted to read all of page 25 in its entirety, so we'll just do that now. All right. So I'm going to pick up with the last sentence of page 24. And the eternal thought or concept of self, which results from this self-conscious consciousness, serves the. Then that's where page 24 ends.
It's like the conclusion. Yeah, it's like.
And then it goes to page 26, which is a new topic entirely, which is motivational aspect. Why we're doing this, which is military, we want to do this and this and this. So without further ado, then let's just do page 25. The mysterious page 25 that came out in 2021 through Vice, which we will talk about how that happened.
So recent.
After we read through page 25. So let's read that last sentence one more time. Or we'll just read the last paragraph so you have a better context. That hologram is a mirror image of the absolute in infinity, still exists outside time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and is the actual agent of all creation, and in parentheses, all reality. And the eternal thought or concept of self, which results from this self-consciousness, serves the absolute as the model around which the evolution of time-space revolves to ultimately attain a reflection of and union with him, with the capital H. That thought model, which perfectly reflects the essence of quote-unquote spirit of the absolute, fits the Christian metaphysical description of the Holy Spirit. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. Its use as the figure of the universe, or creation developing in evolution, is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity, whether Eastern or Western derivation. Whether it's the stylized labyrinth once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese spiral through the fourfold powers, the ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity to the present. 20th century physics would seem to be revisiting insights belonging to mankind as far back as written records can take us. The only difference is that 20th century physics is using a left brain, linear, quantitative style of reasoning to approach the same knowledge which the mystics of old apparently acquired in holistic, intuitional, right brain style. As a tool in the hands of our left brain culture, Gateway would seem to be a promising method for achieving the intuitive, holistic type of interface with the universal hologram needed to provide the context that thinkers like Einstein have thought in their labors to discover a unified field theory in physics. For persons in our profession whose concerns revolve around strategic issues, tactical questions, and matters of managerial form and systems, access to a new world of intuitive perception and self-reflection would seem to offer in the long term the means by which to know in a truly objective way. This is so because the self-imposed limitations to balanced perception and objective logic which our cultural and personal psychological subjectivity imposes when we use the strictly left-brain thinking style could be offset by the holistic form of perception associated with altered states of consciousness. To the extent that we come to perceive ourselves fully in the context of that portion of the universal hologram, which is the reflection of ourselves, to that extent, we release ourselves from the prison of subjectivity. It was axiomatic to the mythic philosophers of old that the first step in personal maturity could be expressed in aphorism, quote, know thyself. To them, the education of a man undertook as its primary step achievement of an introverted focus so that he learned what was within himself before attempting to approach the outside world. They rightly assumed that he could not effectively evaluate and cope with the world until he fully understood his personal psychological balance. The insights being provided by 20th century psychology in this context through the use of various kinds of personality testing seem to be a revalidation of this ancient intuition. But no personality test or series of tests will ever replace the depth and fullness of the perception of self, which can be achieved when the mind alters its state of consciousness sufficiently to perceive the very hologram of itself, which it has projected into the universe in its proper context as part of the universal hologram in a totally holistic and intuitional way.
So that's why you asked that question at the beginning of the show, huh?
Correct.
So, really quick. Are those flourished words, or is that a dude being like, the brain is jacked into the interdimensional matrix of reality?
So that's why
you are your brain, and you are like,
boy,
what is he actually saying?
This is a episode I hope you are fucking high as fuck for, and if you're not, go smoke up because we are about to. We're going to talk about it, Jesse. This is the reason I brought up Stephen Hawking and physicists, because that's where we're going. The last part of this is. This would seem to be one of the real promise of the Gateway experience from the standpoint of its ability to provide a portal through which, based on months, if not years of practice, the individual may pass in his search to find self, personal effectuality, and truth in the larger sense. Basically saying, and this is another way of what people have been doing for centuries, millennia, Eastern, sure. Western. That's basically what it says.
But does he also mean any truth? In an intel sense?
Solid question.
But yeah, because like he does talk about, because then it goes from that to the motivation why they care, and that's all the military shit.
Like, what is Putin thinking? We know now.
Yeah, they want to spy everything. Where they are, what they're thinking, because what they're doing.
Because our brain has reached oneness.
Yeah, but that's not how it is. Like, and that's what he basically is like. This is going to take forever. This is going to take years if they want to do it the way that they're presenting, which is this
assuming
internal
it's real. Yeah, it's real.
You have to like look inward, and we want to be able to use it as a weapon
now.
Like yesterday. Yeah, we want to be able to use this yesterday.
Let's stare at the goats instead, gentlemen. Yeah.
yeah, very much. Listen, as a middle-aged man, or at least almost middle-aged, geez, time, how does it work? I, try to lead a healthier life, or at least I have been trying to lead that healthier life, but I need a little help sometimes. And as a guy who sits on his ass all day, but also works all the time while he's sitting there, I don't always have time to prepare that kind of nutritious meal. Thank you to today's sponsor, Factor, by the way. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws you. That's the thing, Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Hell, you can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto Meals, which was based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto. Results will vary depending on diet and exercise, of course. Listen, with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, grab-and-go snacks, and more than other add-ons as well. Eat smart with Factor and get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off of your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring today's episode. But that's the mythical missing page 25. The swirl, so like that's what was filling the void of these theories that people thought were, this thing might held the instructions on how to astrally project. Now, how did we exactly get page 25? And it's another story that throws the Monroe Institute into a weird, kind of sketchy place with its owners in this time. Basically, while no CIA or Army official publicly came forward to explain the missing page, the organization that originally inspired the report, the Monroe Institute, eventually shed light on the mystery. The Monroe Institute had its own copy of the full report the entire time. And this is due to a Vice investigation, a Vice article, it's a great article. According to a Vice investigation, Monroe Institute staff revealed that page 25 had been safely stored in their archives all along. In fact, they said the report, including the elusive page, was sitting buried in the Monroe Institute archives in Faber, Virginia, forgotten in a barn somewhere. Basically, they said it's in a box in a barn somewhere. We could go find it and dig it up probably. They also noted that no one had actually come to them directly
to
looking
ask
for this
about
missing page before. This is the first time anyone had ever approached them about finding.
They had no idea that was missing.
Now that's a separate question. That's a totally separate question. Whether they had any idea people were looking for it or not, I don't know the answer to that.
Why was it missing? Because it's like anti-Christian? Do you think there's just a Christian army guy who was like, no, we don't want this?
I think it was just a clerical error.
Okay.
I think it was as simple as that because there's a lack of anything top secret about it. Nothing about page 25.
Blasphemy.
I guess, but there's other things in the report that could be considered blasphemous when he talks about the cosmic egg and all these other things.
There's no real goal.
There's nothing on page 25
it would achieve nothing. It would achieve nothing to leave the page out.
Yeah, he's also not saying this is what it is. He's saying this is what I've been told.
This is what they're saying.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they were contacted in 2021, the Monroe Institute leadership at the time acknowledged that, oh yeah, no, we actually have the page that you're interested in. But they were hesitant at first. Vice reports that the Institute's executives initially discussed leveraging the hype as a marketing opportunity, given the surge of viral TikTok videos that had taken place because people started finding the gateway experience online naturally. And so it started taking fire on TikTok, and the Monroe Institute leaders were like, whoa, maybe we can ride this.
They were like, we do have that page.
We do have that page. And yeah, that's really it. And after they got into it,
it doesn't mean we have a page.
They did get onto a Zoom meeting with Vice, though the manager, I guess, or one of the higher ends of Monroe didn't show for the meeting. And basically the meeting achieved nothing. And they insinuated hey, maybe we can use this as a way to market it. Vice was not having that. And they basically just kind of let it go.
They were like, what? Ew,
and it died. Then within the Monroe Institute, there was a huge leadership shakeup and the people at the top were ousted and new people took
in 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened not long afterward. And after that internal shakeup, what happened is Vice, the people that were contacted them woke up to an email from the new leader with the entire report just sent to them.
Here, fuck. I don't know.
No, seriously, they just that's what the Vice people said is the new leadership within the Monroe Institute just emailed them the report because they were looking for it. And I don't know if they were going through email, what they were doing, but that's just what happened. And that's how Vice got a hold of page 25. of that document because of this just weird internal shakeup of management. But the damage had kind of been done already. The missing page 25 for 20 years, it was too late. People believed that the gateway process might be this mystical thing. Others believed that it was a bunch of like hokum bullshit. The stories of the gateway experience and what people believed they were capable of doing had already taken fire on the internet. And very similarly to how we see the flight of MH370, still to this day, repeatedly brought back this idea that it was kidnapped by aliens, even though it is definitively not. People still bring it up, and that's the case for
so
this.
Frustrating, dude.
People point to this paper and say it's a CIA paper. It is not a CIA paper. People say page 25 had all these missing magical things, and when you finally get it 20 years too late, it's interesting, but it's nothing special. Yeah. And so all of it already takes root, and you mix that with leadership that seems to expand the Monroe Institute into this more questionable programs of energy healing and weird shit after Robert Monroe's death, and the Monroe Institute then looking for an opportunity to market afterward. The Monroe Institute in more modern day is certainly one to look at with a lot more doubt and a shadow kind of been cast over it, but not to undo the work that Robert Monroe has done and the studies in binaural beats in his early work and what that has yielded. The problem is the story is so much more complicated than something being a scam or not. It is both at the same time while still being separate things entirely. And understanding the missing page incident in context, it's worth noting how government declassification and the FOIA processes also often work. When agencies declassify documents, sensitive portions can be redacted, blacked out, removed. And so it's unusual for an entire page to be removed like that. And so that is kind of more evidence that it was a clerical
That should have been
thing.
a sign. That should have been a sign. It's like a Phoenix Wright clue. It should have been a sign that it was like to anybody reading it that it's not the original.
Right, exactly. Like so and it very quickly gets muddled and the thing runs, and the narrative rather completely runs wild. But in that report, there are still valuable things and things that end up leading in a rabbit hole that I want to bring this to as we end and maybe talk about a little bit of our meditation. And that is holographic reality and holographic science. And this shit is so much fun. Goddamn, I promise you, this is so fucking worth it. Do you know much about holograms and like their discovery and what all that shit was about?
I don't really know anything about them at all.
All
I know is that one time the Gorillas played a live show and it blew my mind.
Well, the CIA, quote unquote, the CIA paper.
Also, do you remember that time that Will.i.am was like in the election coverage and he was a hologram? That was crazy.
What?
No.
Dude?
Oh, that's because he was broadcasting from 2008.
Dude, I know, right? Hold on. He looked like the Emperor.
Right.
Hold on. He looked like Darth Sidious.
Do you think
I don't know.
do you think when he phoned them, he went, boom, 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 and they were like, oh, Will's here.
Hey, Will, what's up, buddy?
He was
He's
like
an
shitting
X-Man.
on
He
y'all
was
with the
in the X-Men
boom,
movie.
boom.
Are you
Look at
sending
this.
us a link?
Yes, I fucking
Okay.
am. I'm like, look
Boom,
at this
boom,
fucking
boom.
picture. This picture, dude, it's like pure comedy. It looks like it's from like Idiocracy or something, dude.
What the fuck? Oh, okay. I don't remember this at all.
It has the exact same vibe. Good God.
It looks like
man.
it looks like a Disney Channel
hold
effect.
on. That was 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in 3008 and they were 2000 late, dude.
Yeah.
That's, oh my God. That joke landed in a way I did not expect.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased.
That's fantastic. All right.
He looks like a PNG, dude. He looks
He
like
does.
he's
He
got.
looks literally like a PNG.
He looks like he
standing in
has
the middle of
outer glow
reality.
on, dude.
He
He legit
looks
looks like he
like-
has outer glow from Photoshop.
Have any of you been to the mall lately by a jewelry store that has the fake woman who's like, welcome to the jewelry? He looks like
have,
that.
They have something like that at the movies that is absolutely
I hate
upsetting.
that. It's the worst.
So at the first paragraph of page 25, it talks about
Orlando Bloom and the time machine ass technology. Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Orlando Jones. Had to save my career. Sorry.
The first paragraph, page 25, suggests human consciousness and reality operate like a hologram. The report argues that modern physics is rediscovering insights long known to basically mystics, namely that reality can be viewed as like a universal hologram in which each part reflects a whole. By using the gateway techniques, which include the hemispheric synchronization brainwaves, they may achieve a holistic, intuitive state of consciousness that is supposed to interface with this universal hologram. Basically, when the left and right brain hemispheres are in sync, one's awareness can expand beyond the limits of ego and perceive itself as part of a greater whole, which sounds a lot like ego death on mushrooms. That's really what it sounds like.
Which is fucking real.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. The report suggests this allows a person to, quote, know in a truly objective way by seeing themselves in context of the entire universal system rather than as an isolated subject. The idea echoes like the ancient mystical admonition, know thyself, implying that true self-knowledge is internal. It's all inside, baby. The world is in you as it is outside, but you have to get right within you first.
I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of like where we go, but there's science behind some of this holographic stuff. While CIA analyst concludes that by transcending ordinary awareness, one may escape the prison of subjectivity and experience a state of unity with a larger consciousness in the universe, there is some potential reality here. Now, in practical terms, this means the nature of consciousness might just be simply a holograph. Our mind is not just like isolated phenomenon. It's part of kind of a continuum. And here's a brief history of holography. The technique of recording and reconstructing fully three-dimensional images has its origins in the mid-20th century and has evolved dramatically with science since then. Focusing by the name of Dennis Gabor's discovery and subsequent development. So in 1947, a Hungarian-British physicist, Dennis Gabor, conceived the idea of the hologram while trying to improve electron microscopes. He discovered the principle of quote unquote wavefront reconstruction, which is the foundation of holography in a nutshell. In 1948, a year later, he coined the term hologram from the Greek holos and gramma, which means whole message. Basically, the hologram means whole message. His idea was to record not just the intensity of light like photography does, that's what photographs are, but also its phase, thereby capturing a complete record of the light wave from an object. However, at that time, Gabor lacked a coherent light source like a laser. So, because it was just his early holography experiments were way limited by the use of less ideal light sources. His pioneering work, though, ahead of its time, earned him the 1971 Nobel Prize in Physics for his invention and development of the holographic method. Now, that's a whole ass other thing that we can get into, but it wouldn't be until the invention of the laser that holography would be pushed into our more modern understanding. And that happened in 1960 when the laser was invented, and it would provide coherent light that would require to turn Gabor's theory into a practical reality.
That
With
is
laser light,
so crazy to
dude,
imagine.
it gets so weird,
it's like
man.
magic, literally.
This is where I'm like, oh man, I don't know. This is weird shit.
This is
With
literally
laser light,
wizard
scientists could finally record clear interference patterns and create their own holograms. And in 1962, Emmett Leith and Juris Upnieks at the University of Michigan.
What?
Yeah, dude, here, I'll copy paste the name. You can try and tell me.
Upnieks?
Here you go.
No, yeah, Juris. Maybe it's Juris.
Upnieks?
Juris Upnieks?
I'm sorry. I should have looked up how you pronounce it, but I never
Juris
do.
Upnieks?
Oh, bless that sweet man.
Yeah. These two at the University of Michigan applied Gabor's ideas using laser beams, and they produced the first laser transmission hologram of 3D objects, achieving images with realistic depth and parallax. Around this is like the lithogram. It was like lithograms. Yeah, that's what they were called. And around the same time in the Soviet Union, physicist Yuri Denisyuk independently developed a holographic technique inspired by earlier color photography methods of Gabriel Lippmann. Denisyuk created the first white light reflection hologram in 1962, which could be viewed under ordinary light, not just laser light. And these parallel developments demonstrate holography's potential. But what a hologram is, so a photo is a capture of light intensity, but it is a flat 2D image of a very particular spot. What a hologram is the capture of a light interference pattern. And when you look at a hologram, when you bend it around and stuff, you see a 3D image. You see the entirety of the image. What's unique about a hologram is that every single shard of the hologram contains the whole of the information. So imagine you have a mirror that you pick up and you look in it and you can tilt it and you see a wonderful forest of trees. As you tilt it around, you can see the 3D image. Now you take that mirror, you drop it and shatter it, and you pick up a small shard. And while you pick up the small shard and bring it to your eye, you still see, though through a more narrow perspective, the entirety of that forest, even though the glass has been shattered. Though the resolution may be much blurrier on a smaller piece. The entirety of light interference pattern information, though, is on every single bit of a hologram.
Whoa.
The whole
is
a part of everything in a hologram.
Whoa.
That's fucking weird. But it's true. It's just fucking science. Holography rapidly advanced, and by 1967, researchers had even made holograms of live subjects using pulsed lasers, brief, high-powered laser bursts that quote-unquote freeze motion. And in 1968, Stephen Benton invented the rainbow hologram, a technique allowing holographic images to be viewed in normal white light, producing a multicolored rainbow 3D image. So holograms is quickly becoming colored and you get like more detailed.
How fast did we get to Will.i.am at the 2008 election?
I think it's like a 1972 discovery.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, okay.
This innovation would end up paving the way for mass-produced holograms, like the shiny 3D security image on credit cards and stuff. Like, that's a hologram. And by the 1970s and 1980s, methods to emboss holograms onto foil and plastic were being developed, making holography ubiquitous in security and commerce. That's where, like the holograms are on your cards. And so, Dennis Gabor, having cracked the code in 1947, the field, after all of that happened in 1967, all the way up to the late 1980s, it kind of stagnated. The field of holography more or less kind of came to a grinding halt. Holograms also differ fundamentally from photographs in a few unique ways that are almost paradoxical that I want you to put in your brain. The most famous and intriguing property, again, is that any piece of the hologram contains the entire image. If you break the holographic plate into pieces, each fragment still reconstructs the whole original scene with maybe a limited angle, like I said, or a lower resolution. This happens because the hologram is not an image itself, but an interference pattern encoding light waves from the entire subject. Every portion of the interference pattern holds information about every point of the object. It's as if the image is kind of distributed throughout the hologram. This is like way different from a regular photo where each part of the picture only contains that portion of the scene. I mean, like if you cut a photograph, you're only going to have half the picture. If you got a hologram, you're going to have two full holograms of the same thing. Even a tiny fragment will still contain the entire picture of the original holographic image. There's parallax in 3D realism holograms because of hologram encodes a light field of a scene. When you look at it from different angles, that's why you see everything at a different angle. This gives holograms that 3D depth and parallax effect. There's a distributed storage of information as well. The fact that each part of the hologram contains the whole image illustrates that information is not stored point for point, but rather in a wave interference pattern, which is like a grander scientific kind of discovery from all this. Technically, hologram records both amplitude and phase of light waves via interference, often by combining light from the object with a reference beam, which was the laser and stuff like that before. The resulting pattern that's what ends up with the resulting pattern looking like a dense set of fringes, meaningless to the eye, but when illuminated with light, will give you the actual full image.
Like everything.
Are you following me? Are you still,
I know you keep kind of losing me a little bit, but then I keep kind of like putting it back together. It's taking all of my concentration to continue to conceptualize this, but I'm with you.
Here's another mind-blowing fact about a hologram as well. The holograms capture not just the entirety of objects, but down to a microscopic level. While you may not be able to see it when you're capturing the light interference pattern, in a hologram, you can basically zoom in and look at microscopic organisms in that hologram. It captures everything down to just even that small of a detail. a hologram of like a magnifying glass will actually behave like a magnifying glass to objects within the holographic image itself. So it's all like, exactly. It's like, what are you, it's fucking crazy.
Wait, say that one more time.
Yeah, please repeat that.
A hologram of a magnifying glass will behave like a magnifying glass to objects within the holographic image that it's also in.
Wait, what?
So if you take a holographic image of like a table with my brush and then my hand holding a magnifying glass,
I can use a hologram.
If I tilt it, I can then, the magnifying glass, it'll magnifying the table, even if it's looking at the brush initially.
Only the image that's already in the hologram.
In the hologram.
So you're not using the hologram as a magnifying glass.
No. It's the magnifying glass is able to be a magnifying glass
to
all aspects of the holographic image.
No, like as a picture, I know they're different, but like if you take a photo of a magnifying glass magnifying something, would you be able to see the item being magnified through the magnifying glass in the photo?
I believe so.
To all aspects? Hold on. To all
aspects of the hologram itself. Yes.
So I can look at more than I can look at a regular brush with a regular magnifying glass.
I mean, scientists have literally used holograms of swamp water to examine the microbial life within the swamp water within the hologram instead of the swamp water.
So the implication out of all of this is you're saying that the potentiality of reality to just be a hologram created by our brain exists.
That information with holography proves that information is not stored point by point, but all things have all of information distributed throughout it.
I mean, technically,
just like those math forms that we were talking about in Cornerfest. Actually,
yeah, like technically, your brain is the only thing you know exists because it interprets everything. Yeah. So, like, technically, they could be correct, but it's also like
except
the definition of a hologram.
But those scientists that I'm talking about, and this is not exactly holograms, this is just math. But in the theoretical things that they were figuring out with string theory, it was like they were finding actual error correcting code in the patterns that they were seeing that were like
representation.
It was like code that was representational of the shape itself, where the entire shape contains the code like a hologram.
Yeah.
Right? But within that code that it contained, they were finding evidence of error correcting code existing within the code. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Like in the way that Safari on your computer has code in it that like protects it from runtime errors while it's running or whatever. I don't know the exact terminology because I'm not good at computer shit. But like the code that runs the program has code in it to like correct errors that may occur, and he was finding evidence of those in his theoretical mouth things.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking is what, like, is the implication that then there is
it's just more evidence
making
towards
that happen?
Yeah, it's like more evidence towards it being intentionally a hologram or whatever, rather than a naturally
and
occurring.
Not something like the Romans making roads that self-repaired, that literally were just that's how they made them.
Like
it wasn't like robotic or whatever.
Of course, it could literally just be that it looks that way, but like it's already theoretical and uses like string theory and whatever. So it's not like they can look at it. It's just like something they're figuring. So we don't know the answer to that part of it. But this guy who is an expert in this is not, and like, you know, worked for Obama and worked at the White House and is like a serious physicist, was like, I believe this to be possible. And it like opens up implications into religion and reality being a simulation.
Oh, sure. I think the idea of I believe this to be possible is 90% of this show, though. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. It's sure.
That's why I think the holography stuff is cool, though, because this is actual just science. Like, it's just cool, light information storage. And like the property that each fragment contains the whole image is one of those rare things where it seems to unite scientists and like philosophical thinkers on the thing where they're just like, this is so like, what the fuck is this about? Because it suggests like a metaphor for how information might be stored in other complex systems. And it implies a form of a weird holistic storage where the whole is enfolded in each part. And I wish I knew what that meant, but I'm taking it from a scientist, Carl Pribram. This neuroscientist, Carl Pribram, developed the holonomic brain theory in the 1970s. Pribram was struck by the fact that memories in the brain don't seem to reside in one location. There's no single neuron for each memory. Portions of brain tissue seem to contain many memories. He proposed that the brain might store information in a distributed hologram-like way through interference patterns among neurons. In such a model, each part of the neural network contains the information of the whole, much as each part of the hologram contains the entire image. And Pribram and others pointed out that processes in the brain like vision and memory could be understood in terms of patterns of nerve signals that are mathematically similar to a Fourier transform like a hologram, which, I don't know, man, that's science words that he was saying. This is basically like, best I could figure out, like a radical idea trying to tie together neurobiology and holography.
We're at the edge of
we're at the very edge, exactly.
Psychedelic physics now.
And around this same time, another physicist, David Bohm, was also intrigued by holograms, and Bohm's interpretation of quantum physics led him to suggest an implicate order in the universe, a deeper level of reality where everything is fundamentally interconnected. He used the hologram as an analogy. In a holographic film, each region contains the whole image. So Bohm imagined the tangible world we observe is like the explicit order, like an image, which unfolds from an implicate order, the hologram, where everything is enfolded together. And in Bohm's view, the universe could be structured like a hologram where separateness is an illusion. And at a deeper level, each part contains information about the entire cosmos. Like we're a 3D holographic projection of the 4D reality. And it's because of the unique properties of holograms, especially the whole in each part phenomenon, that drew all these people to it. In the 70s was kind of a boom of like using holographic discovery to fuel philosophical thought. And in theoretical physics,
crazy, dude.
I know. And in theoretical physics, the notion of a holographic universe emerges from attempts to reconcile quantum mechanics and gravity, particularly through the study of black holes. The idea is encapsulated in the holographic principle, first proposed in the 1990s, which suggests that our 3D reality might be a projection of information defined on a 2D boundary, analogous to a hologram. This principle was inspired by puzzling findings in black holes and is closely associated with physicists Gerhard Hooft and Leonard Susskind, one of the guys I mentioned earlier. And in the 1970s, Jacob Bekenstein and Stephen Hawking discovered that black holes have entropy proportional to the surface area of the event horizon, not their volume. And Hawking showed black holes emit thermal radiation, which is known as Hawking radiation, and can eventually evaporate. This raised the famous black hole information paradox. If a black hole disappears, what happens to the information of everything that fell in? Hawking's calculations implied information might be lost, which would violate quantum mechanics, which says information cannot be destroyed. And in the 1980s and early 90s, physicists pondered this paradox.
Information.
Yeah, because that's what, think about it. The light interference pattern that is being caught is information. Right. Which is being seen as the image, right? And Gerhard Hooft suggested a solution. Perhaps all the information about anything that falls into a black hole is not lost at all, but rather encoded on the event horizon, which is like its 2D surface. In other words, the 3D contents of a black hole could be described by data on its 2D boundaries. And this idea meant the black hole's surface is what actually stores the information, kind of like a record, if you think about it. Like a vinyl record holds the information of the audio on that 2D plane, that the 2D flat plane holds all the information that the black hole sucked into it. Did you have a question, Jesse, before we move on? You were say something?
I when you say information, you mean the, like, not
zeros and ones.
Yeah. You're talking about, like, when you say information, you're referring to like stuff. Literal just life and stars,
energy and matter and everything.
The stuff, all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all of it. Leonard Susskind, basically in 1994, building on Hooft's proposal, Leonard Susskind published a paper titled The World as a Hologram. And in it, Susskind argued that the combination of quantum mechanics and gravity, quote, requires the three-dimensional world to be an image of data stored on a two-dimensional surface like a holographic image. This statement is like essentially is just the holographic principle. All the information in a volume of space can be represented as bits on the boundary of that space. And then he, with each bit roughly occupying an area on the order of 1 Planck area, which is 10 to the minus 66 centimeters squared.
Okay, and what is a Planck?
No problem. I'm a mathematician, man. 10th to the power of negative 66 centimeters squared.
Cool. Okay.
So tiny. So tiny.
My pay grade.
Yeah, it's like the tiniest you might be able to get. A Planck.
Yeah.
His insight was that our universe might function like a gigantic hologram, basically. What we experience as 3 dimensions is encoded on a distant 2-dimensional boundary, like the black hole. His work, along with parallel ideas by Hooft, gave a concrete framework to the holographic principle, and the math showed that the maximum information, which is they call entropy, inside a region of space scales with the area of its boundary, not the volume. Just as a hologram's information is on a film surface, even though it projects a 3D image. If one tries to pack too much information or too many quantum states into a region, one eventually creates a black hole and the information gets encoded on the horizon. Thus, nature seems to enforce a holographic limit. I don't really, I'm
like gone now. I think I'm pretty much. I think I'm just information
at this point in the research.
I think some information was lost in the black hole. I think.
Yeah. I cannot pretend to understand.
What I don't.
A lot
so
of
the
that.
leap here is that the edge of the universe is essentially the border of a projection.
Well, they're trying to solve a paradox of a black hole because quantum science says things cannot be destroyed. But black hole says this, it all gets destroyed in a singularity. So he's saying maybe it doesn't. Maybe the information gets spread out over the event horizon in a compressed 2-dimensional state that we see as the event horizon around a black hole. But that's all of the information. It can't fit into the black hole itself. That's my understanding of what I was reading.
Maybe when the Celestials destroyed the first firmament in the Celestial War and spread the multiverse, creating the second cosmos.
Maybe
the aspirants entered the second cosmos to destroy reality.
Hey, we're in theoretical physics. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, like, once you're in theoretical, I think the lesson here is that we're operating in the space of maybe
theoretical physics.
Yeah, maybe. But
it's theoretical physics. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
My point is Black Bolt's out there.
All right, so let's keep moving. In 1997, though, Juan Maldacena provided a concrete example of the holographic principle at work, known as the ADS-CFT correspondence. He showed that a theoretical universe with gravity in 5 dimensions, what he calls an anti-de Sitter space, is exactly equivalent to a quantum field theory on its 4-dimensional boundary with 1 less spatial dimension and no gravity. This discovery was a major breakthrough that gave credence to the holographic idea. It's as if physics found like a specific hologram, he says. Everything happening in the 5D bulk space is encoded in the 4D boundary physics. And while our real universe isn't ADS, this correspondence is a compelling proof of concept that holographic dualities are real in theory.
Holographic realities are real in theory.
I mean, I don't like
in theory. Sure,
proved
unreal realities are real in theory.
He proved 5th to 4th from his math, and he's then I think extrapolating that 4th to 3rd is like possible. I think that's what he means. Basically, this led to what was also known as the Black Hole War between Susskind and Stephen Hawking, which was a decades-long debate about whether information is lost in a black hole or not, which is the whole crux of what we're talking about. The holographic principle was Susskind's winning weapon, though, and by the mid-2000s, most physicists, including Hawking eventually, came to accept that the information taken in by a black hole is not destroyed, but preserved. And holography is the reason why. Hawking conceded in 2004, agreeing that information could escape a black hole, effectively acknowledging that the holographic resolution of Susskind's first, saying that the event horizon was what the information was. He basically acknowledged a holographic resolution to the paradox, because Hawking couldn't come up with a solution to the paradox that information is destroyed in a black hole when quantum science says information can't be destroyed at all. And he was just like, okay, well, Susskind's makes the most sense. So that's what I'm going with. And today, the holographic universe concept is still a very active area of research in theoretical physics. It's very much a modern pillar of quantum gravity research, apparently, and has deep connections to string theory, as you were talking about a little bit earlier, Access. And the idea remains mathematically complex. Even Susskind described it as seeing our world as a shadow of underlying information. The best way I read somebody describe it is like, our three-dimensional image, when light hits us, produces a 2D shadow. The 2D shadow, if it was real, does not perceive that it is being created as a projection of a light hitting a three-dimensional object. It only knows that it is a two-dimensional thing and nothing more. And the idea is that we are similarly the shadow of the fourth dimension projecting itself as a holographic image into our own 3D reality. And that itself is why what meditation and the gateway experience of the CIA were interested in was trying to crack into this, to interface with the fourth and fifth dimensions and use that to their own means. I promise the rabbit hole looped back around at the end, but that's really what they were after.
Yeah, it felt like it was headed there. Yeah.
And this is a crux as to why they were even interested, because this all existed and was coming into existence during Monroe doing his things. It was all happening at the same time. And so it kind of makes sense that they would be like, well, wait. And in that CIA paper, there is mention of Ishtok Bentov and other like theoretical physics and shit that kind of physicists that go into this stuff. And so that, I think, is where we'll end the Monroe Institute aspect of things. The full context of the Monroe Institute and their weird, nefarious, kind of scammy, shady practices post and prior of Robert Monroe's death. But the reality of holographic science and quantum existence and these paradoxes existing that seem to interface with meditative practices that go all the way back to Eastern and Western religions of old, of like this universal spiral world and all this stuff as they were talking about, you know, it all comes together and they touch tips a little bit. And that's touching of the tips that gets the government interested in looking into things, as it always does. So boys, with that, we'll close the show off with our own personal meditative experiences. I'm curious what it's been like for you and how often you tried. I think, Jesse, you gave it a shot this week. So why don't we start with you, Jesse? How'd it go? How did you approach this? What was your mindset going in? I'm very curious what your thought process was going into this.
I mean, even though I think personally, I'm like, whatever.
Sure.
I went in completely open. I'm always down to try new things and see what stuff happens. Here's what I'll say. Besides feeling like chill and relaxed, it has a very, like I get the, like, you know, ASMR tingle vibe going on there where you're like, oh, okay. With that said, the only thing that even remotely happened to me is that, I like started to see a table in my
table.
My eyes closed and I saw a table.
You were notoriously unable to imagine things.
Yes. Oh yeah. I cannot visualize things. And the minute I focused on it, it went away.
Interesting.
But I saw a table and there was no like, what was that table? It just, my eyes were closed and like a table started to form. And then I was like, oh, is that a table? And then it went away. And that was it. Like, that's all that happened.
Could you tell like what kind of table it was? How big it was?
Like a kitchen table kind of vibe.
Like one that was in your apartment?
No. It was never a table I've seen before. I don't even like.
It was a 1979 Pier 1 Imports.
Just like imagine a big table with the four legs and the big top, and that's what I was seeing. And when I went to try to like focus on it to get more information, immediately vanished, and then that was kind of it. And the rest was just my eyes closed.
How long was it? Did you meditate for?
God, how long is
30 minutes or something?
Whatever the tape is.
Gotcha. Yeah, to me that I find that fascinating with just again because of how you've talked about how you literally can't imagine things in your mind's eye at all.
That's why I was like, what is this? And then it went away. Like the minute I decided I'm going to focus on it.
Does that make you want to do it again though?
Really what it makes me want to do it, because I think I've been trying to do it since, and I think I just because I was taking the time to sit there in relative quiet to be like, oh, I am focusing on something. I think I could attempt to do that just laying in bed at night with eyes closed. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's you could do meditation without a guide, and you could just lay in bed. And
it's definitely something I was interested in because I was like, okay, I saw that, but again, I have no real. I don't know like what that did. I don't know if it was part of it or if it was just because my eyes were closed for so long that I started like seeing things. Because at a certain point, I was seeing the red of looking through my eyelids. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Right.
See, I wear an eye mask, so I don't have to fucking
like
worry
you're
about that
actually
shit.
taking in
Light
information. Yeah.
And so my eyes were closed and it was dark. And then after a certain period of time, I was genuinely, I could feel my eyes moving in my closed eyes.
Dude,
and that
yes,
worried me because I was like, all right, should I open them? What should I, because then I started to be like, what am I will say my brain was definitely playing, and this happens to me when I sleep sometimes, so I know it wasn't this.
Sure.
But like, if I close my eyes long enough, like I'll get flashes of weird things, not like a face or anything, but weird things that seem strange that are like, woo, 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 but it's just my eyeballs losing their mind because I literally have astigmatism in one eye, and so my eyes like, bro, I don't know what's going on, dude. So yeah, that's just me. But it was a trip. Yeah, it was interesting.
Alex, what about you? When did you start trying? And
I did it in like whenever you like sent it first.
Months ago.
Yeah, like I don't know, like September or so.
Yeah.
So maybe even before that. I did it for like maybe like 2 weeks. And I was really enjoying it. It was kind of like making me uncomfortable sometimes. Like by the end, I would feel kind of like weirdly tired or whatever. Like sometimes, like I don't know how to describe this, but like I used to do this show called Comedy Sports, which is kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway on stage. And like, it's two teams. It was like kind of sports themed. So like one team would go and then the other team would go, right? So you'd think like, in an hour and a half show or whatever, I'd be sitting on the bench half the time, like resting, but I would be so exhausted from doing those shows. And it was because like engaging your mind with something so actively to be like supportive in the case of improv, or like in the case of meditation, just being like so fucking present and like trying to focus my will, like, because it asks you to do it actively a lot of the time in meditation, which is not something that I find to be
intuitive.
Natural.
Yeah.
Intuitive. It is like intuitive in the way that like I feel like I could use Storm's powers if I had them. I could reach out and like I know what it would feel like to move the weather in some way. Yeah. But thinking about what that would feel like and picturing myself moving, trying, genuinely trying to will the storm, or will the claws to pop out of my hands.
Yeah.
Really actually try. It makes you tired. And so like, I found myself getting really exhausted sometimes when I would do it, and it left me feeling worse than when I started, but I would always, always, always feel powerful. I would always feel strong.
And you have any weird things happen when you were meditating?
Nothing, like I say, like I would believe things were happening in the context of meditation, like all the time. Like I would empower myself to believe things were happening in the context of like intent, like magical intent or whatever. Like I was like, I'm doing this right now. And I was like fully believing that I was doing it. Like when I was saying I was talking to my dog, or like, I remember one time I was trying to turn my ears up and down. Like not physically, but like turn my audio input up and down at will, like mute my ears with willpower.
What?
I could kind of,
I think Xavier would let you on the team if that was your mutation.
Turn down the ears of the guards, X-Men. He'll make it so that you can't hear Wolverine approaching.
But it's only me I can do it to, right?
It's only for you, yeah. That's
so
the problem.
like if I'm the guard, I guess it's cool. Like I can be Professor X's inside man and get hired as a guard who then turns off my ear. I guess I don't need the power at that point. The point is
getting too deep of a thought.
The point is I really did feel in the moment. I could believe that I was doing the thing. So it really was powerful in that way, and it was helping me. I don't want to say hallucinate, because I wasn't like seeing it any better than normal when I like imagined things in my mind, but I was able to connect those images that I was seeing in my mind to the belief that they were really occurring. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think so.
And so like for me, it made me feel like maybe that was one of the pathways to like believing you're remote viewing, you know, is just believing that you're remote viewing and guessing well. But like, it also was like, maybe I was starting to exert my will, you know,
That's
like
what Jesse
I don't
was about to do. Dude was about to remote view somebody's living room.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how much of it's,
sure.
I genuinely don't know how much of it's me and how much of it's the vibrating or the talking or the actual specific things he's telling me to do.
Do you think it had any like do you notice any day-to-day differences and not like because you're a psychic, but like just internal thoughts?
I'll be honest, like my understanding of the universe and like that I use day to day to get through my life is already pretty like out there, I think, compared to the average person, just based on my like life experiences over the years and things I've done and seen and done. But like, so no, not really. But like at the same time, like it was very like easy to jump on the train. It really was like a simple, it feels elemental in the way math does sometimes, you know, like it feels natural that it would work this way. And like when he says like, you know, stuff like draw the power and put it here and stuff like that. Yeah. You can feel like getting powerful and pushing and you push it out and you don't feel as powerful anymore because you're venting.
I didn't feel that at all.
I'm just saying like, I'm not telling you like, oh, I was moving my power around or whatever the fuck, but I was able to get to the point where I might as well have been in my mind in the moment. And that's kind of an interesting thing that meditation can do. And I think is very centering and kind of like, you know that sound of the bell or like the bowls that people like that just reverberate inside the middle of your forehead. Like, I feel like there's some kind of connection between all that is like natural to the activity of meditating, be it scientific or physiological or magical or steeped in Eastern mystical tradition, whatever the fuck that dude said in the report. Like, I enjoyed it. It's not something, like I said, I'm not a guy to like buy into stuff like that, really. Like, I understand that it's like something that I have to buy into. I'm able to get there, but I'm not trying to make it part of my life right now in a way where I'm like, I need this. I feel like I'm already kind of thinking about life that way, and I'm already depressed. I'm still depressed. Like, it's not.
Well, it's important. It's not a cure-all at all.
Yeah, it's not going to help me. I'm not here using it feeling like I'm going to find truth. But if I'm stressed out, I could seek the tapes as a way of feeling powerful. Let's say that.
Interesting.
In the moment.
We all three of us had a very different experience, I think.
Well, like how people say smile.
Yeah. And
you will be happier. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. I think that's true. I mean, very similar to you, Alex. Like there were sessions where I was just tired after, and I would not meditate for a couple days because I just didn't feel like it was just like an exhausting idea. I will say that in my experience, I do find myself in my day-to-day being more like aware of my own negative emotions and being able to like have an external thought of just like, it's dumb that you're angry about this or anxious about this. Just let it go. And not like a voice that doesn't belong. It's obviously my own thought, but I have noticed the ability that thought creeps in. Like there is that second moment of just like, hang on. Do you really want to be anxious or this angry? And sometimes it doesn't fucking matter. And I'm angry anyway. And even that thought doesn't stop anything. But the fact that I'm having that thought is progress in trying to like, not let anxiety dominate or whatever. Regardless, beyond that, like in terms of weird stuff, I didn't astrally project. I didn't like, get shot out of my body. I did have the physical feelings I had consistently were the feeling of extreme heaviness over my whole body. And the occasional buzzing feeling, like from on my limbs in particular, but often my entire body of this very, not like a vibration like so many other people say, but just a very gentle buzzing. And I might have said it last episode, but there were two hallucinatory like moments very early on. One of the first times I was meditating, I just had, in a way that I never had, like just a flash of an image that was like a move, like I could like see it in the back of my eyelids. Like it was an actual
That's pretty
image.
Crazy. Yeah.
And it was just a flash of a gray alien. And I just think it's because I was thinking about aliens and like I was deep in the relaxed state and midway through, and it just like did that. It literally made my heart like sink for a minute. It like snapped me out of the relaxation. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Didn't move. It was a still image, and it was like less than a second. It was just bing and bang. It was done. Then the other one that I had was an audio hallucination a couple months later, which was to the right side, just in my right ear, which sounded like a young, like European woman go, hello? Hello? And that was it. And that scared the shit out of me too and snapped me right out of it. That was
Pretty
it.
good.
Like, it was weird as hell. And I don't know why my brain decided that was what I like needed to hear. Like, I don't really know. But other than that, like nothing crazy. But I am surprised as someone who's so fidgety and ADHD, how I was able to at least get to the point of being able to sit completely still for the whole time. And that also was just in and of itself cool to know. Like I was able to just be like, I can sit still. This is nice. Yeah, nothing crazy other than that. It was fascinating. But I will say this week, between last episode and this episode, I was going to take mushrooms and meditate. I took the mushrooms. I found I didn't get to the point where I put the headphone on, and listened to the meditative tapes, but I went in with the intent of being like, meditate. I wanted to focus on meditation and try to meditate with it. And I'll tell that story on the minisode.
Great.
Over at patreon.com/Chilluminati pod.
Great.
You know,
he knows the job. He knows how to do it. I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was a
Thank
great
you all so much
cliffhanger.
for listening. The Monroe Institute and the Consciousness 3-parter is done.
Done and dusted,
We've got a special
baby.
guest coming next week that we'll just hold off on announcing.
Oh, what?
And the new Mothman plush is out. You probably heard the ad playing at the beginning of the episode, but it's
get
out.
that shit.
Go get it. We're almost at the point where, like, by the time this episode's out, we probably sold plenty to get them printed.
He needs
so get them
a friend.
Limited run.
If you have the old one, this one looks nice next to it. They are two different colors.
Yeah,
They're like
tiny
good
version.
friends, and if you only have one, you don't. They're gonna be so
It's a love
lonely.
story left unsolved. It's the mysteries of
You
love.
won't have any, won't have a buddy to hang out with, and then when you're not home, he'll be by himself.
Yeti.com/Chilluminati.
That'd be terrible.
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Oh, hey. Look who's back from their vacation to Scotland. Hey, Mothman.
Hey, Chupacabra! Hey, Fresno Nightcrawler!
My greetings, young lad. What a beautiful Polaroid camera you've got there. Such beautiful leather straps and so well weathered, like the pale brown skin of so many leaves, dry and brittle atop winter's first snow in Fresno.
So, don't keep us waiting. How was Edinburgh? Did you meet Nessie or what? Maybe a Kelpie?
Actually, this is so crazy to say, but I might have met someone. And you know, I'm usually kind of an enigmatic loner, but we honestly had a lot in common. It was nice, like the opposite of a notorious national scale bridge disaster.
Wow, that's so sweet. Yeah, it's a shame they're all the way in Scotland, though.
Yes, just as the California winds blow through the ash trees, there is no better feeling than weird, beautiful love between two dark entities of fate. For your friend to make their way to us, it would be glorious. It would be world class. It would be Fresno.
Yeah, I hope they write me back.
3 to 5 business days later.
Dear Mothman 1, it was so great to see you the other day. Thanks for visiting my fair city. You can tell that I'm from here because of my very authentic accent. I don't really know how to say this, but it was nice. Like the opposite of a notorious national scale bridge disaster. yeah. Anyway, I'm just writing to say, I think I will take you up on the offer to visit. And anyway, the group that created me, the Chilluminati, has an office out there, and I'm sure I could make some excuse to come out. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this next part, but Mothman 2, now with green eyes. Get your clone today. I mean, get your own today at theyeti.com/Chilluminati. Yo.
Anyway, Me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here!" So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.